So inspired by BBC winter walks, I thought I'd put together my own little episode with people I know who have sent clips of their own winter walks. And we're out today to start it off. It's quite chilly at the moment and muddy underfoot, and we're coming to look at where a tree was planted the other day, see how it's getting on after the storm.
This is a completely immune elm tree, and it's one of 30 that they planted around the country to celebrate 30 years of the tree warden scheme. And I was a tree warden 30 years ago, and this is actually planted just near where there was a large English elm that fell over 20 years ago at least. And in Hampshire the scheme started actually at Petersfield. We had the first meeting, but in this field we've planted quite a lot of trees now. We've got it clear of the football ground here, and we've got very good rangers here which are looking after the trees.
It's a sign of a winter walk, all these muddy puddles. I love the reflections of the trees in the puddles. It's like there's windows in the ground, and the beautiful patterns of the branches. Pippa doesn't like mud on her paws, so she doesn't really like the winter walks.
The old Scotland. What I wanted to do was to reinstate an ancient hedgerow right the way across to join up with these to make a wildlife corridor.
And I've spotted some old man's beard, traveller's joy, and some beautiful red rose hips. So this is the plant that saved my life, and we used to play around as kids. It's the old man's beard, giving ourselves beards with the stuff. And so yeah, with gratitude every time I see this plant. At the moment it's still a very wintry seed head. There's no sign of the buds of the flowers that come in the spring, which a poet, Philip Durham Lorimer, an Australian bush poet, wrote that the traveller, when resting their eyes on thy delicate beautiful hue, knows that the winter has fled with its storms, and the charms of the spring are in view. In Britain it flowers later in the summer, August and September. There are signs of spring here though. There's the catkins growing from the hazel coppice fence. I love these mossy banks as well. Used to think of them as cushions. Be nice to sit on, but it's such a beautiful bright green at this time of year. It's really lovely to see. When we're coming down to a corner ahead, it reminds me of childhood days when my mum and me used to go for like a nature walk. She often did after school. We were walking around this corner and would have continued along on this side of the road had my mother not spotted the traveller's joy on the other side and wanted to show me. Just as there was a high-speed police chase, came down Crouch Lane, tore across this green, the car escaping the police, followed by the police car, would have ploughed straight through us, and I'm convinced that we would have both been killed had my mum not crossed to look at the traveller's joy. It would have been growing here. It's now covered in ivy. So I thank my mother's love of nature and flowers and plants, and also the traveller's joy itself for growing there, which I believe saved our lives that day. We've come up to Catherington churchyard now and seeing more signs of spring.
2 maples, pretty well the oldest in Hampshire. That is really old, this one. I think it's probably about 500 or 600 years old. Very old tree.
This is a walk I used to do after school.
Yes. What is this life if full of care? We have no time to stand and stare, no time to stand beneath the boughs and stare as long as sheep and cows. No time to see when woods we pass, where squirrels hide their nuts in grass. No time to see in broad daylight streams full of stars like the skies at night. No time to turn at beauty's glance and watch her feet, how they can dance. A poor life this, if full of care we have no time to stand and stare. Ah dear. Silver birch, they look lovely in the winter.
Nice to see the primroses again, isn't it? Makes you think of spring. Little flowers with the cow parsley. That's really early.
In full flower in January. Amazing.
On a winter walk, it's lovely to see signs of spring, isn't it? But it'll be some weeks yet before we see the daffodils, which are one of my favourites. Which reminds me of a poem by John Masefield. It's a warm wind, the west wind, full of birds' cries. I never hear the west wind, but tears are in my eyes. For it comes from the westland, the old brown hills, and April's in the westland, and daffodils.
Hi, my name is Teresa, and I'm here in my local green space, Sandwell Valley Country Park, and we're going to go for a little walk on this beautiful winter morning. Oh, and this is Rosy Trotter, my dog who usually accompanies me on my walks. Rosy! And we're just coming down one of the many lanes that are lined with holly. And as you can see, there's still a few pockets of frost on the ground. It's such a cold morning. This really is a wonderful place. It's quite a large area with fields, woodland, lakes. There's an RSPB reserve as well. And it's a real oasis in the middle of the West Midlands conurbation. You might hear some bird song. And also, as you can hear that distant roar, it's not the ocean. It's the M5, M6 interchange, which unfortunately cuts through the middle of Sandwell Valley. But, you know, I like to pretend it's the sea. And we get quite a lot of different wildlife here. And, well, foxes, obviously, and rabbits. Quite often see buzzards. And here we are coming to the top of the hill. I love winter when it's like this, you know, crisp, sunny mornings. Every little blade of grass encased in frost. And the ferns as well look really pretty. We're just coming up to Paul's tree now, which I planted, well, it's over 10 years ago now. It's still very small, but I'm hanging on in there. There's the little tree. We're just coming down to the spring now. There's quite a few springs around the area, as well as the main one that gives the Sandwell area its name. I love the trees in winter as well without the leaves, because you really get to see the shape. And up in those tall trees you get ring-necked parakeets now.
Hi, I'm Gail, winter walking out in Southsea today, and just by Clarence Pier and turning the corner to look at the sea. So I'm going to take you down. You can see a ferry, and I think the hovercraft is just about to go. Hear the stones underfoot. Seagulls just loitering around. Just about see the Isle of Wight in the distance, and also in this direction, heading to Gosport on the end of the pavilion over there. And just in the distance, we're coming up to Southsea Castle, where Henry VIII stood to watch the disastrous sinking of his flagship, the Mary Rose. You can just see South Road here in the distance. My parents sent me some cine-film footage of myself and my granny just giggling just in front of South Road here, about 30 years ago now. And it's strange being back in the area and in that same place. She's no longer with us, but it was lovely to be in the same spot and remember being here in family times back in those days. I'd like to share one of my favourite winter poems, and that's Snow by MacNeice. The room was suddenly rich, and the great bay window was spawning snow and pink roses against it. Soundlessly collateral and incompatible, world is suddener than you fancy it. World is crazier and more of it than you think, incorrigibly plural. I peel and portion a tangerine and split the pips and feel the drunkenness of things being various. And the fire flames with a bubbling sound, for world is more spiteful and gay than one supposes. On the tongue, on the eyes, on the ears, in the palms of one's hands, there is more than glass between the snow and the huge roses. We're just heading down into the rock garden, Southsea rock garden. Always a beautiful, sheltered place to come any time of the year. But it's lovely at the moment because it's quiet and there's nobody here. Lots of little cobbled pathways take you in all different directions. Lots of quite tropical trees and plants. Quite a triffid looking one just here. And then looks like somebody's been doing some rock painting. Here's some water running, so I'm just going to head up here and see what. There's a little pond here and a waterfall. I see a blackbird there. I hear a few birds singing in the last light of the day. So we're just walking back and thought we'd finished winter walking really, and then we've seen this lovely tree. I wish I could tell you what it was, but I'm sure people know. It's got lovely catkin fronds on it. You can't really probably see in the light, but they're quite purpley when you get quite close. It smells beautiful actually. It's the end of our winter walk.
Well, hello. I'm out in Wilverley enclosure today. It's a nice place to walk in this lockdown, and lots of varied area. Probably can see behind me. Bit of history for Wilverley was it was thrown open in 1846. A lot of the trees around here were quite young at the time, so it was quite a young forest at the time. Obviously it's come a long way since then. I suppose personally this place has got quite a lot of memories for me, with my family, going out for walks. When we first moved down here when I was young, we stayed in a campsite not far away from here, because the house that my parents had bought, the people from there, they couldn't move out, so I think it was about 2 months, we had to live in Setthorne's campsite, which made so that I had the New Forest as my back garden, which was wonderful. And of course, making my own family, bringing my boys here, going on lots of walks with them. They went begrudgingly quite a lot of the time, to be fair. So still, brings a lot to me. It's nice to get in contact with nature. Anyway, I'm going to sign off now.
Hello, my name is Annette Wincott, and I do poetry, I perform, I do music. And today I hit the Southsea front, and it was blisteringly warm for this time of year, really, really warm. And then I thought, right, I'll nip out in the rest of the afternoon to come down here and do my walk. True to British weather, we have rain. Very lucky. There's a rainbow that's appeared. It's a mixture of sunniness and rain and a rainbow. So that's what we have today. Beautiful weather. And the poem I'm going to read while I walk, and where I'm walking, I'll just give you a little turn round, is the Portchester shoreline, one of the inlets as you go along the shoreline here. It's a beautiful day. Sea's gone out, but yet it's still beautiful. So this is where I've chose to read my poem today. By the water's edge. By the water's edge, I feel I'm sitting on a watery ledge. Yet I don't feel I'm falling away or any dismay, as it holds me fast as the sea rolls over me and touching me last. It laps the shoreline as I sit wishing to swim with fellow marine life. I do pine. I know I will return to the sea in mind and body one day soon. By the water's edge, I see the birds and the boats in the distance far off. I am here to breathe in the fresh air and avoid catching the universal cough. By the water's edge, I feel safe from the craziness of our present 2020 world, as we are all in a tight grip while watching a pandemic virus around us unfold. Wash away my fear, I do pray, to the salty air, then find the best way for my soul to survive and repair. By the water's edge I meditate, to my inner soul I do relate. No one here can stop me or emotions I don't allow others to police. To stay grounded, I send this wish out for all people of the world today. Because we're not permitted to hug or reassure our families, our friends, regardless where they stand, where they lay. By the water's edge, I want to hide away. I just want to stay here with my instruments, sing, dance, play. So now I console myself with a friendly passerby, smile and nod of their head, thinking of all the good memories of positive experiences instead that I've had and I've been blessed with in my life by the water's edge.
So me and Simon and William are heading off for one of our favourite winter walks, which is at Godrevy. So we're at Godrevy Head. There's the lighthouse. See all the way round. That's St Ives over there, and then Trencrom Hill, and then Hale. So this is all St Ives Bay. It's just about sunset and it's beautiful. So our walk is going to take us over the top of this headland, Godrevy Head, and we're going to see if we can see the seals. Here comes William racing up the hill. He's got his nose wrapped up because it's feeling quite chilly today, isn't it? Yeah. So we've come up the path from the road. They've stopped now, but there were some oyster catchers. They were singing. I love their song. And we're going to go up here, across the field, to see the seals at the top. If we look down here, there are all the grey seals, probably hundreds of them, mums, dads and babies, fluffy ones, dark ones, spotty ones. So we normally come between solstice and New Year, winter solstice and New Year, but here we are in, well, February, early February. There's a load of birds here, a few seals in the water. I'm not sure if they're fulmars or gulls. So we can see from here where we would have walked if we'd started at Hell's Mouth. So you can just about make out the coast path. They've done loads of improvements to it. We would have zigzagged along all the way along there. Maybe about a mile. We walked up from with you in Godrevy. Looking over the cliff, the gulls have just taken off. Some of the seals are in the water, but most of them are hauled out on the beach. So on the way back to the car, I'm having a little detour down onto Godrevy Beach. So this is the furthest over to the lighthouse that you can come down to the beach. It's really beautiful for rock pooling. At this sort of tide, it's on the way out. And on the very, very rare day when it's completely still and beautiful here, it's just the most amazing place to swim. So over there, all the amazing rock pools towards the lighthouse. Here is just the lovely, lovely beach. We come looking for blennies here at summer solstice, when they're all out in the rocks looking after their eggs, and they stay out of water between the tides. You can just see their little moustaches in the cracks between the rocks. There's probably a seal or two out in the water here. There usually is when we swim. You can see one more of them, and they like to come and meet the dogs when the dogs are on the beach.
I'm Naomi, and today I'm taking a winter wonderland walk in North Kent. So I'm here in North Kent after what has been the heaviest fall of snow in quite a while, probably 10 years I think. And I've managed to get out to enjoy the magic of it all. Due to lockdown, a lot of the country spaces that I walk in locally become really busy. It's put me off a little bit. But fortunately the snow and the cold has kept people in, which means that I get the solitude that I really enjoy. The thing about living in North Kent is that while there are some lovely walks to be had, it's so overpopulated that unfortunately it's quite difficult to find places that feel truly wild. I mean, the North Downs, there are plenty of walks, but you know, there's lots of villages. The M2 bisects it, so you've always got that sound of traffic, and it can be a real struggle to feel you're really disconnected from civilization, which is something that I really crave. But on a day like today, I've got the solitude I crave. One of the things I really like about walking in nature is the fact that everything changes so quickly. These fields in the spring, last spring anyway, were filled with oilseed rapes. They were brilliant yellow. And there was a buzzard's nest in those trees there. And I sat a bit further away than I am now and watched the mother buzzard come and feed her young, and it was just beautiful. And here we are on a day like today, completely different, and in a few weeks it will be different still. So this is one of my favourite little spots. I call it my sacred oak tree, and I love coming along here on my walks because in the spring and the autumn she changes week by week. Of course she's dormant right now. Give it a couple of months and you'll start to see the buds and they'll unfold. And for someone who lives their whole life pretty much on the internet in some way, shape or form, actually coming here and noticing those small changes is a great way for me to ground myself, says she on her camera. I am aware of that. I'm standing here on my phone right now. But ironies aside, look how beautiful this tree is. After several days of overcast skies and about 48 hours of ongoing snow, finally the sun is making a return. I don't know how long it'll last, but I'm looking forward to seeing some blue skies and sunshine. So, returning back to civilization now. As you can see, this footpath is already quite well trodden, even though it's still fairly early in the morning, about 10 o'clock. So, almost home now. The roads are pretty clear considering all the snowfall we've had, but it is still fairly quiet, so that's good. I love that homeward stretch of a walk when you're all ready to get in and get warm, have a cup of tea, maybe a hot bath. Oh, the anticipation. And here we are, the last few steps of my beautiful winter walk.
Good morning. I'm Jess and I am up on the Ashford hangars, which I was lucky enough to move to just before this lockdown. There I am.
Yeah, so I'm taking you on a little walk through one of my favourite parts, where you start walking up this very steep hill, which is just on the other side of that ridge, which you can't really see. And so this bit, as you can see, there's still lots of up to go, and there's lots of down. And so this is walking sort of midway up and across the hangars. It's a really beautiful track. It's pretty beautiful now. Also beginning to imagine what it might be going to be like as the spring comes. Ooh, I have to duck under a tree trunk. Yeah. The light's really amazing, and I'm going to be quiet for a few moments to see if you can hear the birds that I can hear. Can you hear that? It's sort of hard and crispy. In fact, you can hear that. You don't need me to tell you that. You can hear my crunchy footprints. And I'm going to go along here for about 10 minutes and then pop out at a bench with an amazing view. So, after about 10 minutes on that lovely track, I've popped out where I often come in the morning. If I'm working online, I often come up here to get out and about before having to sit in front of the computer, or even if I'm going to the studio, which I haven't been much lately because it's so cold. I might come up here before driving over there. And you can see why. It is absolutely lush. Oh. So this track carries on all the way across the sort of front face of the Ashford hangars. And you can walk along the top, or you can walk along the bottom, or you can get sort of a bit lost in the middle until the tracks come together. And gradually I'm finding out, I'm starting to recognise what leads to what. That's from me. Bye.
Hi, I'm Rosy. I'm going on a winter's walk with my daughter Sakina, who's filming me, and we're going to go to Baffins Pond in Portsmouth. We'd love it if you came along with us. Baffins Pond in Portsmouth. It's a very grey, dull, typical winter's day. I quite like the grey light in winter. It's kind of soft and not too demanding. As a splendid example of grey, we've got lots and lots and lots of grey pigeons. A little splash of colour there. All the pigeons are making that beautiful cooing noise that they do. Alderman Lacey there, one of the remaining branch libraries in Portsmouth. I spent a summer or so standing around with a petition outside there. In the first lockdown we used to come here a lot, and there was a beautiful heron who used to live just below the willow trees. Oh, a moorhen! I love moorhens. Hello there. Oh, look perfect to me. Little tufted ones. I love the little tufted ones. All the little ducks go upside down, upside down, upside down. All all the little ducks go upside down as they double at the bottom of the pond. Always been a favourite of mine.
Blackbird.
And are either cormorants or shags. Never quite sure what the difference between a cormorant and a shag is, apart from the comedy value, of course. Hello pigeon, you look very fat and big, like you're dancing. Ooh. Looks like somebody else does as well. Oh, you're going to get lucky today. Is this going to be a Baffins Pond love story or not, I wonder? Turning into a bit of a menage a trois. One of the joys of winter, of course. Splashing in puddles.
Remember, when jumping up and down in muddy puddles, you must wear your boots. Oh, bye-bye. Nice gentle breeze.
Swans lumbering around. I like the squelchy noise that their webbed feet make. Last spring, one of our lockdown pastimes, this is the spot where we spent ages filming loads and loads of little rodents bouncing around and running up the ramp there, sitting on their back legs, nibbling whatever it was that they were nibbling, and everybody was walking past saying, "Ooh, rats." And Sakina and I rebranded them as waterfalls, and we were very indignant that everybody kept on calling them rats. What's in a name anyway? Good job, someone's not getting fed up of feeding them. I like these little small gulls with the pointy orange beaks. I'm not sure, I think they might be kittiwakes, but I could be wrong about that. Stepping into what's very much the world of the pigeon at the moment. Although maybe, like we rebranded the water voles, how could we rebrand the pigeons, Kino? What could they be?
Grey-crested parrots.
Yeah, missing their crest. So, we've now been all the way around Baffins Pond. It might be a suitable point to pause and reflect.
When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free.